Want to talk about some more bass fishing? We've got just the man to tell you where to go in Southern Oregon and Northern California. His name is Jason Haley. He's a tournament angler. He's also an outdoors writer. You can read his articles in Washington and Oregon Game and Fish, Oregon Hunter, and California Sportsman. Jason, great to have you back on the show.
Thanks, John. It's been too long.
It has been. I got to ask, where are you fishing this year in terms of your tournaments, and who's sponsoring you this time around?
Well, this year I skipped the spring season, so some family obligations, but I'll be fishing FLW Costa Series, the California Delta in September, and the One Bass U.S. Open again this year on Lake Mead in October. Some smaller events this summer, but Mercury, Redding Yamaha Sea-Doo, and the Sign Dude teamed up and did a great boat wrap for me this year. I'm tickled about that. A Swagger Tackle out of St. Paul, Minnesota. There's a tungsten manufacturer, and Navionics.
Well, that's fantastic. And folks, these people who fish in these tournaments, it takes money to do so. It takes gas to do so. It's expensive. So to have the sponsor support's great. I'm glad they're doing that for you, Jason. Let's talk a little bit about fishing in your neck of the woods. And I'd like to start in California. Now, whenever I think of Northern California, I think of Clear Lake because that's where so many tournaments are held. But there's some other lakes further north that hold promise for bass fishermen, aren't there?
For sure, yeah. A little bit smaller. I mean, you got Lake Shasta, of course, which is big, but there's some kind of smaller sleeper lakes. Lake Almanor over in Plumas County right now near the town of Chester. Fishing really good, I hear. The smallmouth are on the stump flats, or they're on the beds right now. I just talked to some anglers that were over there catching them, and it's fishing really good. You get near the Intermountain area, the towns of Bernie and Fall River over in Shasta County, and over on the Modoc County border, Lake Britton is a good lake this time of year. Usually fishes good in May. There's also a kind of a sleeper called Big Lake near the town of MacArthur off Highway 299, and that's one I could probably get hung for because not too many people know about it. There's a road called the Rat Farm Road that's behind the fairgrounds, and it's a clear lake. There's just maybe a couple of bass anglers that even know about it, but there's some giant bass swimming around in there. I talked to some divers the other day that were studying crayfish, and they said there's just schools of 5-pound bass in there if you're willing to go down a dirt road and dump your boat in.
Oh, my gosh. Are we talking largemouth or smallmouth, Jason?
All largemouth bass, and there's some natural springs over by the Achamaui State Park that they favor, but there's bass throughout that thing, but there's just not a whole lot of people that fish it, and it should be a good topwater bite real soon. Those fish probably aren't on beds yet. They got some late snow over in that area and some cold weather, so they're a little bit behind the schedule.
All right, well, let's hop over the border to Southern Oregon. Everyone's thinking trout when it comes to the area you live in around Klamath Falls, but I'm guessing there's a couple places you go for bass.
For sure. The bass anglers like to think of trout as bait. My tournament partner, Logan, just caught a great big 7-pound largemouth on Galesville Reservoir, north of Grants Pass, kind of east of Glendale, and east of I-5 up there. It's flooded timber. It's a pretty small reservoir, but it's fishing really good right now. Guys are catching 30, 40 fish a day. It can support probably, let's say, 15, 20 bass boats or small club tournaments and that kind of stuff, but that lake's on fire right now. Lost Creek Lake, which is just kind of north of where I live, is really good in June usually, but I just drove past it the other day on Peyton Bridge, and it's just chock full. It looks gorgeous. It's going to be fishing really good right now. The Lost Creek Lake Marina, they sell licenses and tackle and all those things, and they're all dialed in. They're usually dialed into what's working good.
Well, Jason, I hate to do this to you because I have a feeling you've got a lot more great information for our listeners, but we've got to let you go. So, folks, if you want to find out more about what Jason has to say, look for his articles in Washington, Oregon Game and Fish, in California Sportsman, and Oregon Hunter Magazine. Jason, always good to have you on board, and good luck in tournament fishing this year.
Thank you, John. Really appreciate it.
Clear Lake, Bass Lake, Otter Lake, Goose Lake, Gull Lake, Round Lake, Bear Lake, Rice Lake, Sugar Lake, Mud Lake, Long Lake, Ant Lake, Swan Lake, and Lake of the Woods. Oh, I fish everywhere.